The man who threw me out of his house at 18 smiled at me like a proud father. The same second I realized my grandmother's will was about to turn him into my enemy. I used to believe you could outgrow the people who broke you. That time would shrink them. That distance would erase their power. I was wrong because at 28, the past didn't knock on my door. It was already sitting at the table waiting for me. I hadn't seen my father in 10 years when I walked into the will reading. 10 years later, he handed me a trash bag, told me to pack, and said, "If you walk out, don't bother coming back. No hugs. No goodbye. No help, just the sound of the door slamming behind me and a future." I had to build alone, and yet there he was, relaxed, confident, smiling like the world still belonged to him. He leaned back in his chair, looked me up and down, and said quietly, "This is good, kid. Real good." The way he said the kid made my stomach twist. He was already talking numbers, already talking plans, already acting like nothing had happened, as if he hadn't missed every night I slept on a friend's couch, every double shift I worked to stay in school, every month I chose rent over food. The only reason I was even in that room was because of one person, my grandmother. She was the one who taught me how to clean floors, not as punishment, but as pride. Who slipped cash into envelopes labeled emergency cookie money when she knew my account was empty. Who looked me straight in the eye and said, "If he throws you away, I'll keep you." Weeks after her funeral, the letter arrived, formal, cold, unavoidable. A summons to the reading of her will. I knew she owned a mountain lodge. Everyone did dot it, sat high on Willow Creek Mountain like a secret that trees were sworn to protect. Old wood, wide porches. Memories baked into every creaking step. But never imagined it was worth over $1.36 million. And I never imagined the man who disowned me would show up acting like a loving father. Already planning how to divide her legacy, as we took our seats. The room felt too small for the history packed inside it. On one side of the table sat my father, my mother, and my older sister, perfectly dressed, perfectly aligned, like a board meeting they expected to control. On the other side, it was just me and my grandmother's lawyer. The judge cleared his throat. Papers aligned with surgical precision. "We are here," he said, "to formalize the last will and testament of Dorothy, all parties present." My father interrupted smoothly, eager to honor my mother's legacy as a united family. United. I almost laughed the last time he'd used that word. He was shouting at me to quit college and work full-time for him instead. When I refused, he chose obedience over love. My mother didn't look at me. Her hands were folded so tightly her knuckles were white dot. My sister leaned back, eyes scanning me like I was a rival. Not her sibling. Then the lawyer began to read. Small bequests first. Charities. Keepsakes. I felt my father's impatience like heat. His fingers tapped the table. My sister checked her phone. They were waiting for the real prize. And then it came. The primary asset, the lawyer said. The mountain lodge on Willow Creek Mountain, appraised at approximately $1,360,000. The number hung in the air like a held breath. My father straightened, smiled, put a hand over his heart. That's when I knew something was wrong. Because he looked. Relieved. Like a man who believed the ending was already written. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my grandmother hadn't just left me a lodge. She had left me a test. And the next words out of that lawyer's mouth were about to set the whole room on fire. My father smiled because he thought he'd already won. The lawyer hadn't even finished the sentence that would destroy him. In respect to the lodge, the lawyer continued, voice calm, controlled. Dorothy Anderson writes, this lodge is my life's work. And my apology to my granddaughter. Apology. That single word tightened my chest. My grandmother had never needed to apologize to me. But she knew someone else should have. I bequeath full operational control and beneficial interest of the lodge, the lawyer read. To my granddaughter, my father exhaled, satisfied. Already turning toward me like a man reclaiming property. Sophie, he said warmly, this is wonderful. We'll help you run it together. Under the following conditions. The room snapped into silence. My father's smile froze. Condition 1. For 5 years, the lodge could not be sold, leased, mortgaged, or transferred without my written consent. I felt the shift before I saw it. My sister sat up straight. My father's jaw twitched. Condition 2. No family member named listed. Unmistakable could hold authority or make decisions without my approval. A sharp breath left my sister's mouth. My father laughed. Not amused. It's not kind. She's joking, he muttered. She has to be. The lawyer didn't look up. Condition 3. If anyone contested the will, challenged my authority, or tried to undermine the arrangement, the lodge would be transferred in full. To a youth charity, no family member would receive anything. Silence collapsed. Like a ceiling falling in, my sister gasped, my mother shut her eyes. And my father, my confident, untouchable father, went completely still. That's insane, he snapped. My mother would never threaten her own family like that. The lawyer slid the document forward. She drafted this herself, reviewed it multiple times. She was entirely lucid. I stared at the signature, not my grandmother's handwriting. Strong, certain. This wasn't revenge. It was protection. Anger cracked through my father's voice. She was manipulated. Old people get confused. You visited her twice in 3 years? I said quietly. Every head turned. You heard what was convenient. For a moment, the years collapsed. The hallway. The trash bag. The door slammed. Then I understood. This wasn't about money. It was about control. The formal reading ended, but the real confrontation started in the hallway. Fluorescent lights, too bright. To honest, my father stepped in front of me, blocking my path like he always used to. We need to talk. I folded my arms. Reality already did the talking. His voice dropped. You don't know how to run a property like this. You'll fail. And when you do, it'll be too late. Good thing I learned how to survive when you threw me out. His eyes flashed. Don't dramatize. You chose to leave. You disowned me, I said. You said I wasn't your daughter anymore. He waved it off. Words said in anger. It's funny how anger always excused him but never me. This is generational wealth, he pressed. Bigger than old fights. We adjust a few things, work together, everyone wins. Everyone. I asked. Or just you? My sister spun toward us. You sign papers. We turn it into a resort. Investors are waiting. You think memories matter more than that? They built the lodge, I shot back, while you ignored her calls. My father leaned closer, voice a threat wrapped in concern. If you do this alone, you'll drown. And when you come crawling back, we won't be waiting. The fear tried to return. Then I remembered who actually saved me. I already lost this family, I said. You made that choice. His charm vanished. You're making a mistake you can't undo. I think I replied, that's exactly what she planned. He walked away, and I stood there realizing something. Terrifying. Winning wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a war. That night, I drove up to the mountains, alone, unlocked the lodge with a key that was finally mine. It smelled like pine and old coffee and safety. Instead of fear, I felt resolve. I didn't start with numbers. I started with a corkboard. Photos. Ideas, my grandmother's words pinned at the center. People don't come here for perfection. They come to remember they're alive. Revenge wouldn't be screaming. Revenge would be success. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Anderson, the voice said. This is Attorney Collins representing your father. My hand steadied. Yes, the war had officially begun. The lawsuit didn't scare me. What scared me was realizing my grandmother had predicted every move my father was about to make. Your father and sister are filing a petition to contest the will, the attorney said smoothly. They believe your grandmother was unduly influenced and mentally compromised. I didn't sit down. I already knew. When? I asked immediately. The call ended, and the lodge suddenly felt very quiet, not empty, watchful, like it was waiting to see. If I was strong enough to keep it, Mark arrived within the hour. My oldest friend, the one who once paid my phone bill with grocery money because he was tired of my number being disconnected, so? He said, setting his laptop on the table, "They finally did it." I nodded. Grandma knew they would. We split our lives in two. By day, I was the lodge owner fixing plumbing, greeting guests, learning every inch of the place. By night, I became a strategist, medical records, witness statements, dates, emails. Mr. Thompson helped us build the case. She insisted on video recording the signing. He said one night, clicking play. My grandmother appeared on screen. Older, thinner, but sharp. If my son ever says I didn't know what I was doing, she said, smiling, tell him I've known exactly who he is since he was 16. I laughed through tears. Meanwhile, my father worked the town, church, business events, coffee shops. She was confused, he'd say sadly. Sophie's being used. Some believed him, others didn't. The split was obvious in the way people looked at me one night. Long after guests had gone, I found my mother sitting alone in the kitchen. He's borrowed money, she whispered. Promised investors the lodge. If he lost, it wouldn't just hurt his pride, it would ruin him for a second. Guilt surfaced. Then I remembered every time she watched him break me and stayed silent. Did Grandma know what she was doing? I asked. My mother stared at the table. Yes, she whispered. Would you say that under oath? She stood abruptly and left. That's when I understood this case wasn't about evidence. It was about courage. The emergency hearing arrived. Cold and gray. My father looked confident like a man. Expecting to win. His lawyer painted my grandmother as confused. Me as bitter. Manipulated. When I took the stand, something settled inside me. I told the truth. About the lodge. About my grandmother. About the man who disowned me. And isn't it possible, the lawyer pressed, that she overcorrected out of guilt? No, I said calmly. It's possible my father underestimated how clearly she saw him. The room murmured. Then Mr. Thompson called our final witness. My mother. She walked to the stand like every step was an act of rebellion. She was clear. My mother said, voice shaking, she didn't trust James with the lodge. She trusted Sophie. My father's face turned red. Linda. He hissed. But it was too late. The truth was out. The judge reviewed the evidence in silence. Then he spoke. The petition to contest the will is denied. Relief crashed through me. The will stands as written. My father stared ahead. Hollow and court costs, the judge added, will be paid by the plaintiffs. My sister whispered, Dad, we don't have that kind of money. For the first time, my father looked small. Outside the courthouse, my mother stopped in front of me. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded. Thank you for telling the truth. She walked away alone that night, standing on the lodge balcony. I felt something unexpected. Not triumph, to peace. But one question lingered. When the person who hurt you finally loses, what do you do with the part of you that wished they'd chosen love instead? I thought winning the case would feel like revenge. Instead, it felt like being released from a weight I didn't know I was still carrying. The fallout came quietly. No shouting. No dramatic apologies. Just consequences. Within months. The truth surfaced piece by piece. The loans my father had taken, betting on the lodge as collateral. The investors he'd promised access to something he never owned. The contracts that unraveled the moment the court ruled. Against him, he sold assets he once bragged about. Cars, a vacation, condo. Parts of the business he'd claimed would have made me successful if I'd just obeyed him. In the end, it wasn't me who destroyed his legacy. It was his greed. Back at the lodge, life kept moving forward. Families arrived with coolers and laughter. Kids raced across the lawn. Couples watched sunsets from the balcony where my grandmother and I used to sit. The guest book filled with messages. This place feels like home. It's like visiting a grandparent who actually listens. Sometimes, I'd stand on the porch at dusk and imagine her beside my arms crossed, eyes sparkling. You held the line. I'd whisper, Mark liked to joke that Karma had a better legal team than we ever could. But it wasn't karma. It was trust. My grandmother trusted me to protect what she built, not to turn it into leverage, not to trade it for approval. My mother never came back with my father. She called once. Months later, I'm learning who I am without being afraid, she said. I told her I was glad. As for my father, we don't speak. Not out of hatred, out of clarity. Because here's the truth. No one tells you. Winning isn't about watching someone fall. It's about refusing to fall back into the version of yourself they needed you to be. The lodge still stands on Willow Creek Mountain, weathered, strong, just. Like the woman who left it to me, and just like the life I built, when no one thought I could dot. So if you've ever been thrown away by someone who should have protected you, if you've ever been told you'd fail without them, remember this. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't money. It's proof that they were wrong.